Hearts will melt. Man surprisingly reveals he's a Navy SEAL after racist attack over parking spot. Mike Lewis gripped the steering wheel tighter as he pulled into the crowded parking lot. His kids, Aiden and Mia, had been looking forward to their after-school activities all week. Though chilly, the afternoon sun peeked through the clouds, hinting at the warmth they craved. But as he scanned for a parking spot, his heart sank. The lot was packed, and he could feel the impatience radiating from the line of cars behind him. Finally, he spotted an empty space just within reach of the entrance. As he turned on his blinker and rolled into the spot, a minivan skidded to a halt beside him. The side door swung open, and an elderly couple emerged, starkly dressed in matching winter jackets. Their faces twisted in displeasure as Mike parked, oblivious to their discontent. "Excuse me," the man shouted, his voice sharp and aggressive. "Do you even know who you are cutting in front of?" His wife stood beside him, looking equally furious. Mike's heart raced. This was more than just a parking spot. It was about respect. Glancing in the rearview mirror, he saw his children watch with wide eyes. Jenna, his devoted wife, stood a few paces back, her heart heavy with the weight of their family values: integrity, dignity, and love. A bundle of emotions swirled inside Mike. He knew they were seeing a side of life that was ugly. "I don't want any trouble," Mike replied calmly, trying to diffuse the situation. But the couple flew off the handle, hurling racially charged insults that pierced the cold air. Murmurs rippled through the gathered bystanders, some nodding in agreement, while others appeared horrified. "Maybe he doesn't belong here." The woman spat, her face twisted in disdain. It felt like a kick to the gut. Mike tightened his jaw, the anger bubbling beneath his surface. The reality was hard to swallow. He had worked so hard to establish a life for his family, a mechanic by trade. He suited up every day to fix what was broken, working long hours just to get by. Before Mike could respond, Jenna called out, her voice both soothing and firm. "Honey, keep your cool. Remember what we taught the kids." Just as it seemed the situation would erupt, Mike felt a surge of something deeper. He took a deep breath, straightened his shoulders, and as if releasing a floodgate, he said, "You really don't know who you're messing with." The words caught everyone's attention. And then, with the calmness of a man who has faced greater adversities, he revealed his hidden past. "I'm a decorated Navy SEAL. I've fought for this country and the values it's built on, including equality. So here's the deal. This space is open to anyone who follows the rules." Gasps erupted from the crowd. The elderly couple fell silent, disbelief casting a veil over their anger. Mike's authenticity began to resonate. The murmurs shifted. Other community members stepped forward, sharing their own stories of prejudice and unforeseen truths. But as the dust started to settle, uncertainty filled the air. Could Mike truly be seen beyond the labels? Surrounded by curious eyes, he faced both admiration and judgment. The lesson transcended the parking spot. It was about more than a simple dispute. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, Mike caught his children's gaze. Their eyes shone with a mix of pride and apprehension. What came next would shape them in ways he'd yet to comprehend. Would this moment change perceptions or simply skim the surface of their community's deeper divisions? With a heavy heart and the weight of expectation, Mike prepared to step forward, eager yet fearful for the important conversations that lay ahead. Would they find understanding, or would they remain trapped in their biases? Only time would tell, and Mike stood ready to embrace the challenge, even as they all stood at the brink of transformation. The tension in the parking lot hung heavy as Mike squared his shoulders, scanning the faces around him. Children peered from behind their parents, wide-eyed and innocent, while others whispered to each other, shifting between disbelief and intrigue. He felt the heat of their stares, the weight of judgment, and hoped. He took a step toward the elderly couple, pulling in a deep breath. "My service isn't just about me. It's about who we are as a community." His voice carried the conviction shaped by years of tough lessons and battles endured. The elderly man shifted uncomfortably, and for a moment, something in his rigid posture softened. "You don't understand," he began, his voice less fierce than before. Mike interrupted gently, "Help me understand. We can't fix what's broken if we don't talk." Silence enveloped them, the crowd hanging on every word. Jenna stepped beside him, her presence grounding. "We've come together today for these kids. They need to see we're better than this, that love can conquer hate. Let us turn this moment into something that teaches all of us. She glanced at Aiden and Mia, who stood by, grasping onto each other's hands. Their small faces reflected a kaleidoscope of emotions, curiosity battling fear. The woman's angry streak flickered, showing a hint of vulnerability beneath her rigid exterior. What if we can't change? She whispered, almost to herself. Mike looked her in the eye, compassion replacing the anger inside him. Change is hard, but it starts with small steps. You took the first one by not walking away. We can do this together. The crowd began to murmur, some nodding in agreement. The standoff was morphing into an opportunity. Mike noticed a young mother a few feet away, tears glistening in her eyes. She clasped her hands over her mouth, visibly moved. I just want my kids to grow up knowing they're loved, she choked out. That they belong. Yes, Mike exclaimed, his heart racing at the sound of that resonant truth. That's what we all want. Our kids deserve to feel safe wherever they go, no matter who they are or where they come from. He caught the gaze of a teenage boy holding a skateboard, nodding along. If we can embrace each other's stories, we can fill our community with understanding. Bit by bit, the atmosphere began to shift. The elderly couple exchanged glances, uncertainty playing across their faces. The crowd seemed energized. Those who had been quietly standing in the background were beginning to speak. Voices grew more passionate, sharing experiences of being judged, of feeling lost, misunderstood, and hurt. But how can we start? A woman with crossed arms finally stepped forward. The question hung in the air like a lifeline. There's no perfect answer, but it starts here, Jenna said, her eyes shining. Let us make an effort to reach out, to invite one another into our lives, learn about our differences, and appreciate our strengths. The moment felt electric, charged with possibility. It wasn't just Mike and Jenna anymore. It was the whole community gathering in a circle, beating back the fear and misunderstanding. As light slipped from the sky, Mike felt a wave of camaraderie. Their surroundings began to fade, replaced by something bigger, a shared mission. But lingering hesitations still clouded the air. What will happen when we walk away? He asked, wondering if this would be a fleeting spark or the start of a blaze. Emotions crackled with anticipation, and Mike's heart raced. Would they have the courage to continue this journey beyond the parking lot, transforming their conversations into actions? In that shared silence, the answer would emerge in ways unexpected. Would they find solidarity and spark greater change? Or would the fire flicker and fade? It was the pivotal moment they all felt, but didn't yet know how to define. Would they step forward together into the dawn of something new? Or would they retreat back into the shadows of division? As the last rays of sunlight bathed the parking lot in a warm, golden hue, a new energy pulsed through the crowd. Mike felt it too. The air was charged with hope, but the weight of uncertainty still lingered. People were staring at one another, not just as neighbors, but as individuals, each with a unique story to tell. Aiden squeezed Mia's hand tighter, his little heart pounding. He looked up at Mike, seeking reassurance. Mike knelt down to their level, a soft smile breaking through the tension. You two are the reason we're here. We want to make sure you grow up in a world where everyone looks out for each other. Mia nodded, though her eyes flickered with fear and confusion. Will they really change? She whispered, her small voice nearly swallowed by the murmurs around them. We have to believe so, Mike replied, feeling the warmth of determination wash over him. They stood together in a moment of silence, the children embodying what united them all, the hope for a brighter future. Then, the elderly woman stepped forward, her resolve returning. It's not just about our kids, she said, her voice trembling slightly. You can change at any age. It's never too late. Her husband took her hand, nodding, and that one action resonated through the crowd, igniting a flicker of determination in others. Mike glanced around, eyeing faces he had once seen as rigid and unforgiving. Now, raw emotions shimmered in their eyes, curiosity mingled with fear, tenderness mingling with regret. The pulse of unity surged, and it made Mike's heart swell. Who here has felt alone or scared because of who they are? He called. Before he could finish, hands shot up from all corners. A powerful wave of vulnerability washed over the gathering. Stories began to spill forth, voices blended together, revealing struggles of identity, fears of acceptance, and dreams of a better tomorrow. I lost my job because of my skin color, shouted one man from the back, anger and sadness twisting in his voice. I want my daughter to walk in a world that sees her for her heart, not her color. That's exactly it, Jenna replied, her voice rising with passion. Let us not just share our pain. Let us share our strength. People began to clap, and a rhythm of unity was building. There were tears and laughter as the crowd bonded over shared experiences, frustrations transforming into a collective resolve. Mike took a deep breath, summoning all his energy. Let us start connecting. Tonight. Right now. Make a promise to reach out to one another. Meet for coffee, a meal, or a walk, whatever it takes. We start the dialogue today. People shifted, exchanging glances that conveyed more than words ever could. A mother reached for a woman she had never talked to before. A teenager encouraged another on the other side of the lot. Connections began to form, and there would be no retreat back into indifference. The crowd, once clumped in separate groups, moved closer. Faces brightened, emboldened by the unity rising up. Mike could barely contain his excitement, but as laughter filled the air and spirits lifted, his phone buzzed persistently in his pocket, pulling him out of the moment. He glanced down and frowned. The notification flashed ominously, a message from someone he hoped never to hear from again. The world around him felt suddenly fragile, threatening the beautiful connection they had just built. Tonight is just the beginning, he said, locking eyes with Jenna, fear and resolve mingling within. We need to stay strong. We can't let the past pull us back. Jenna placed a reassuring hand on his arm, but uncertainty gnawed at him. As the laughter of children echoed, mixed with the newfound determination of adults, Mike questioned what lay ahead. Would that fragile thread of connection be enough to withstand the storms to come? With the weight of impending challenges settling in him, Mike prepared to confront the truth that awaited him. Would he have the strength to help his community when faced with his darkest fears? The murmur of laughter and chatter hung in the air like a delicate thread, stitching together those who had once felt isolated. But as Mike stood there, anxiety churned in his stomach. He took a deep breath and pulled his phone out, glancing at the ominous message on the screen. The sender's name sent a shiver down his spine. Who is it? Jenna asked, subtly nudging him. Her eyes, warm and curious, searched his face for answers. It's Rick, Mike admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. The name stung like an old wound. Rick was someone from his past, someone he had thought was behind him. What does he want? Jenna's brow furrowed with concern, but her hand remained steady on Mike's arm. Just the usual. Mike made a face, trying to stir up trouble. I thought I was done with this. The weight of it all felt heavier than the world they were trying to build. Jenna's grip tightened, and she spoke with a level of fierce determination. Whatever it is, you face it together. This community is here for you. Mike nodded absently, his eyes drifting towards the crowd. Conversations had transformed into laughter, marked by newfound friendships. Aiden and Mia were playing with other children, their smiles wide, innocent. That light made Mike want to hold on to every silvery thread of connection they had woven together. But could he do that while facing his past? Suddenly, a loud shout erupted from across the parking lot, pulling everyone's attention. A man had stepped forward, fists clenched and body tense. He had a raw energy that silenced the crowd. I won't let this town become a place where anyone feels they can be judged for who they are. His voice held a tremor of anger, but there was passion behind it, too. Mike felt a rush of solidarity. This was it. This was what they had spoken about, pushing against injustice collectively. But then, fear flickered in the man's eyes as he spoke again, a different edge creeping into his voice. My daughter faced harassment last week just for being who she is. Gasps echoed through the crowd, a collective heartache palpable in the air. Mike could hear Aiden's breath hitch beside him. He knelt down and looked into the boy's worried eyes. Listen, buddy. Everyone here is together. We're stronger together. This doesn't define us. But even as he spoke, Mike could feel the weight of uncertainty creeping back in. The past had a way of curling back, just as Rick was doing now. This is our moment. Jenna's voice rang out like a beacon. Let us unite against this. We cannot just talk about change. We need action. Let us stand together, for our kids' futures. Cheers erupted again as the crowd surged forward, hands reaching out to one another. Mike watched as barriers began to dissolve, fears transforming into fierce commitment. Yet, Even amidst the growing excitement, the sharp sting of Rick's message lingered in the back of Mike's thoughts. He knew he couldn't avoid it forever. A confrontation felt inevitable. As the laughter rippled through the air and people embraced, Mike hesitated, knowing the battle he had ahead, a battle not just for his own peace, but to ensure a brighter future for Aiden and Mia. Would he find the courage to face the darkness? Suddenly, Mike's phone buzzed again, demanding his attention. He swallowed hard, bracing himself. This time it was a call, one he couldn't ignore. "Guys, I'll be right back," he said, not fully convinced himself. Stepping away from the crowd, he could feel the warmth of their collective hope flickering behind him. Uncertainty squeezed his heart as he wondered if confronting Rick would bring him more pain or be a step toward true healing. With his heart racing and the tension rising, Mike wondered what awaited him on the other end of that call. Would the revelation strengthen their community or threaten to unravel everything they had just built? Mike held his breath as the phone rang. Each vibration felt like a countdown, leading him closer to an inevitable confrontation. He stepped under a tree, its leaves whispering softly in the breeze, but the sensation did little to calm his nerves. "Come on, pick up," he muttered to himself, his thumb hovering over the screen. As if the universe wanted to taunt him, the call went to voicemail. Frustrated, he hung up and stared at the ground, where fallen leaves crunched underfoot like echoes of his past. He reminded himself of the laughter from earlier, of Aiden and Mia and their carefree playfulness. He was part of something bigger now, and he needed to remember that. Gathering his thoughts, he felt the adrenaline coursing through him, a strange mix of fear and resolve. Just as he was about to turn back, he looked up and spotted Jenna talking animatedly with a small group. Her spirit seemed to radiate, and in that moment, he felt the weight of the community behind him. It was a tangible thing, a living force. But Rick was that shadowy figure lurking somewhere in the depths of his mind, ready to tip the balance. Mike ran his hand through his hair, trying to shake off the unease. He remembered Jenna's words. "You face it together." Taking a deep breath, he stepped back toward the crowd, where the message of unity still resonated like a heartbeat. "Hey," Mike called out to Jenna, who turned with a bright smile. "Have you seen Rick? I need to confront him, and I want you to be with me." The smile faded momentarily, but her determination quickly returned. "You're not facing him alone. Let us find him." Their eyes scanned the crowd, searching for the familiar face of Rick. The laughter still filled the air, but now it felt more urgent, a reminder of the stakes. That family atmosphere was something he longed to protect, not just for Aiden and Mia, but for all of them who had gathered that day, seeking change. Suddenly, the earlier passionate speaker re-emerged from the gathering. "We need to make this a celebration. Let's not let fear take over our voices." The crowd erupted with cheers, and that kind of fire was contagious. Yet, Mike's heart twisted painfully in his chest. He caught sight of Rick far off, leaning casually against a truck, that same arrogant smirk that had haunted his dreams. "Jenna, there he is," Mike whispered urgently. Her eyes followed his gaze, and her jaw tightened. "We go together, just like we planned, okay?" As they walked toward Rick, Mike's fears spiraled. What would he say? Would he stand strong, or would fear blur his words? Suddenly, his memories flooded back, the taunts, the anxiety, the feeling of never being good enough. "Hey, Rick," Mike called out, his voice steadier than he felt. The smirk faded from Rick's face as he straightened. "Oh, look who showed up," Rick sneered. He stepped forward, a menacing glint in his eyes. "You think that little gathering is going to change anything?" Mike felt anger coursing through him, and for a second, he hesitated. It would have been so easy to turn away, to slide back into the shadows instead of confronting his fear. But he clenched his fists, feeling Jenna's steady presence next to him. "No, it's not just talk anymore. People here are going to stand up for each other." Rick laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the air. "You think you can rally them against me? Enough." Jenna's voice rang clear, her passion burning bright. "You're not welcome here, Rick. This community isn't afraid of you anymore." The tension thickened like fog enveloping them, and Mike's heart raced. There was a moment where everything stood still, the crowd's eyes watching, the air heavy with the weight of history, hope, and possibility. Was he ready to ensure this moment counted? As Mike stared into Rick's eyes, he didn't just see the past. He saw a future waiting to be fought for. Would this confrontation be the beginning of healing, or the spark that ignited a new battle? Mike's breath hitched in his throat. The crowd was hushed, tense, and watching. Each heartbeat echoed in his ears. Rick's sneer morphed into a shadow of something darker. You really think they'll choose you over me? Rick taunted, stepping closer. The air crackled with the weight of unresolved tension. The laughter from earlier seemed distant now, swallowed by the storm brewing between them. I don't care what you believe, Mike replied, his voice surprisingly steady. Jenna's unwavering gaze bolstered him. It's about what we believe in together. Rick's eyes narrowed. Together? They're just waiting for me to set the rules back in place. You have no idea what you're up against. Stop pretending you own this town, Jenna interjected, her voice rising with conviction. You've bullied people into silence for too long. Well, not anymore. The crowd murmured in agreement, voices rising like a tide of hope. Mike could feel the shift. It was electrifying. He glanced around, searching faces in the crowd, the flicker of courage sparking in many of their eyes. And you think these people will stand by you? Rick shot back, a desperate edge creeping into his words. What if they find out the truth about you, Mike? A chill slithered down Mike's spine. What do you mean? Rick laughed again, dark and sharp. You think you can lead them? Everyone knows you're just running from your past. It's only a matter of time before they see you for who you really are. The room around seemed to shrink. Mike's heart thudded painfully against his ribcage. Memories surged in his years of struggle, the years he spent hiding instead of confronting life head-on. Rick's voice echoed, ripping at the seams of his newfound resolve. And I know you, Mike, Rick continued, his tone laced with venom. Weak. Hopeless. Just look at you, trying to play the hero. I'm not weak, Mike shot back, surprise and anger fueling his words. I'm standing here today knowing how much I need to change. Change, Rick echoed, leaning in close. Change doesn't come from empty gestures or pep rallies. It comes from fear. And what you fear most is facing the truth. Mike faltered for a moment. He wasn't just confronting Rick. He was facing everything that had held him back for so long. Disappointment, insecurities, the fear of never being enough. The crowd wasn't here for the pain, they were standing against it. Listen, Jenna spoke, interrupting the chaos. We're done letting you instill fear in us. This community thrives on support, not intimidation. The winds shifted, the crowd's energy felt different. They weren't just there to support Mike, they were transformed alongside him. What do you think this is going to accomplish? Rick sneered, still playing the villain. You expect me to fall apart because you rally some people around you? No, Mike replied, catching fire from the empathy swelling in his chest. You'll never understand what it means to lead with kindness, Rick. Something flickered in Rick's eyes. For just a moment, doubt eclipsed the bravado, and Mike pressed on. It's not just about me. It's about all of us, he continued, glancing at the faces of his neighbors, friends, Aiden and Mia. He could feel their heartbeat, a symphony of resilience rising to meet his own. This is a community, and we are stronger than you. A strange calmness filled him, as if the fear had shifted to fuel. Would he unleash truth upon the facade Rick had built? Rick stirred, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. Who do you think would want to follow you? He hissed, trying one last time to regain control. That spark of hope inside Mike flared brighter. People who want to stand up for each other. And they won't stand down because you don't like it. Not anymore. The crowd around them murmured louder, an unmistakable wave of strength. Jenna stepped forward, a fierce light in her eyes. What is it going to be, Rick? She demanded. As the air thickened with anticipation, Mike realized this could be the moment everything changed. The future reluctantly awaited his next words, heavy with purpose. Would he proclaim freedom? Or retreat? In that instant, everything hung in the balance. Would Rick crumble before the weight of their resolve, or would this ignite a new conflict? The air was electric, charged with tension and emotion. Mike took a deep breath, letting the weight of the crowd's determination settle into his bones. There was no backing down now. Rick's sneer, once a source of intimidation, suddenly felt fragile, like glass ready to shatter. You think you're strong, Mike? Rick sneered, his confidence wavering now that the crowd was rallying. You're just a boy playing at being a man. No, Rick, Mike shot back, his voice steady. I'm a man who is finally owning up to his mistakes. And you know what? So are they. He gestured broadly to the crowd, his vision soaring over faces that were transformed by shared purpose. They were more than just spectators. They were allies. Jenna's hand gripped Mike's shoulder tighter, anchoring him, as she spoke up again. We have each other's backs. You might think fear works, but we're done being afraid. Her voice rang with conviction, echoing through the crowd, igniting sparks of hope. Aiden stepped up, a determined expression crossing his face. Don't let him get to you, Mike. We are all here because we believe in something greater than fear. The crowd erupted in a chorus of agreement, voices intertwining like a powerful symphony. We believe in each other, someone shouted. A wave of solidarity swept over Mike, dispelling the last remnants of doubt. Rick's expression darkened, transforming anger into desperation. You think you can take over my town? This is my home, and I won't let you ruin it. The crowd grew restless, hearts beating louder as they sensed Rick's falter. Mike felt his heartbeat sync with theirs, a shared rhythm of bravery washing over them. Your home? Mike replied, firming his stance. You've turned this place into a prison for anyone who dares to stand up against you. This is our community, and we're taking it back. Rick's eyes flickered with uncertainty, but he quickly masked it with bravado. You think you have the numbers? History is on my side. I have always kept this town in line. Lines drawn in fear aren't lines worth standing behind, Jenna retorted. Her voice cut through the tension. We choose compassion over control. We choose understanding over ignorance. Mike felt emboldened by her words. Rick, don't you see? You're alone in your fear. We're united in love and honesty. For a moment, silence enveloped them. Rick raised his chin defiantly, but Mike could see the cracks in the armor. The crowd's energy surged as one of the older townsfolk stepped forward, shaking with age, yet filled with spirit. We've suffered too long. It's time we stand together against you, Rick, for our children and their future. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, voices elevating into a crescendo. The realization that they were not alone ignited a collective strength, and Rick could feel it pressing in. Mike sought Jenna's eyes, gratefully accepting the fire in her gaze. It was contagious. You may have used fear against us, he said, addressing the crowd. But look around. This is our family, our friends. We are woven together by our shared stories. Rick's face went pale. The anger seeped away, leaving fear in its place. You think you can take me down? He spat weakly, but Mike could see the cracks widening. Not just me, Mike answered, stepping forward with resolve. All of us. We stand for something pure, something real, and we will not be silent anymore. As a hefty silence fell, the crowd held their breath, anticipation hanging in the air. Mike could feel the momentum building, the balance tipping. Would Rick make his final stand, or would he finally crumble under the weight of his own making? The question lingered as hearts raced, waiting for the next move. Would this moment mark a shift, launching them into an unprecedented tide of change? Or would Rick unleash something more dangerous? Rick's bravado cracked, and everyone noticed. The air shifted, and in that moment, the crowd became a living entity, bearing witness to a tidal change. Mike felt an energy rising. It was raw, pure, and it coursed through him like wildfire, consuming his fear and igniting a determination that burned brighter than anything Rick had ever wielded. You think this is a game? Rick barked, but the boldness in his voice was shaking. You're just a bunch of kids trying to play house. And what have you done, Rick? Aiden shouted back, stepping closer to Mike. You've bullied and belittled while we've been working hard to make this place something to be proud of. We're done with your games. Cheers erupted, echoing like thunder through the square. A ripple of hope surged from each voice, lifting Mike further, pushing away the last remnants of doubt that had clung to him. Rick's fists clenched, thickening his neck as he glared at Aiden. You think I can't shut you all down? You'll regret this. You don't know who I am. We know exactly who you are. Jenna called out, rising to the occasion. A man threatened by those who dare to stand. You may have cast shadows over this town, but those shadows are fading. Just look at us. Huddled together, those who once cowered in silence now stood resolute, their unity heavy and palpable. Old fears dissolved, replaced by the warmth of camaraderie. Mike could see the townsfolk young and old holding hands, faces lined with determination that told stories of perseverance. Remember the day we repainted that old playground? A voice rang out from deep in the crowd. The smiles on those kids' faces? That's what we're fighting for. A chorus of nods and agreement rippled through the crowd, the collective memory igniting flames of inspiration. Rick was losing ground, and it was palpable. The more he tried to lean into his fear tactics, the more the crowd responded with strength, leaving him feeling isolated on a crumbling foundation. It's time for you to understand something. Rick, Mike stepped forward again, his voice steady. You fed off our fear for far too long. No more. We're stepping into the light. What light? He scoffed, but it was empty bravado. The cracks in his stance were becoming wider. Mike could sense the shift. The light of truth, Mike answered, raising his voice. The truth is, we're better together. We're stronger as a community. Your reign is over. The crowd erupted again, a wave of shouts and cheers, drowning Rick's desperate attempts to regain control. It was a harmony of voices, each contributing to the chorus of change. Rick stepped backward, uncertainty swimming in his eyes. You'll never win. You think this will stop with me? In that case, Mike shouted, a fire igniting in his gaze. Let us show you who we really are. It's not just about taking you down. It's about lifting each other up. In that moment, Mike didn't just see Rick losing his control. He felt it. Fear and fury intertwined in Rick's expression, but the veil of denial was lifting. Enough. Rick spat, his anger igniting once more. You think this can just end? I will show you what happens when you defy me. But before he could say another word, something unexpected pulsed through the atmosphere. An elderly woman stepped forward, her hands shaking, but her resolve a blazing flame. I won't live in fear any longer, Rick. Not for myself, not for my children or my grandchildren. We're standing united. Gasps rippled through the crowd, pulling their focus back to the heart of the matter. As the moment settled, an undeniable truth emerged. This was bigger than all of them. I may be old, she continued, her voice trembling yet powerful, but there's no expiration date on courage. Rick's mouth hung ajar, disbelief mingling with desperation. Mike turned to face his friends and neighbors, their eyes glistening with hope, resilience, and courage. The moment felt thick with possibility. What happens next? Mike whispered, not even realizing he had spoken. It was a question for them all, and for Rick too. Would he finally see the truth, or would he fight? This brave new tide with everything he had left? Silence hung like a tension-filled string ready to snap. All eyes were on Rick, the entire community holding its breath, brave against the storm that was about to come. Rick's jaw tightened. He looked around, desperation shining in his eyes as he tried to gauge the mood of the crowd. They stood firm, a wall of defiance. His familiar tactics were backfiring, and for a moment, he was on the defensive. The elderly woman's voice echoed in his mind, challenging his authority. You think you can just turn the tide against me? He challenged, his voice cracking as he spoke. You don't have what it takes to bring me down. Don't underestimate us. Aiden shot back, stepping even closer to Rick. We've got strength, values, and a future worth fighting for. You are just one man without a real vision for this town. As Rick continued to squirm under the scrutiny filled with courage, a vibration of solidarity hummed through the crowd. Jenna pointed to the elderly woman, her voice clear. Look at her. She's a beacon of hope. We're not just individuals. We're a community. Can't you see that? The crowd roared in agreement. Their voices intertwined like a melody, each note building upon the last. Mike felt his spirit lift. They were no longer shadows in the night, but bright, unwavering lights. People who had once hidden from Rick now spoke out boldly, sharing personal stories of growth and connection, each one stronger than the last. We painted those swings, shouted a young father, emotion pushing his words forward. We created spaces for our kids to laugh and play. We're not afraid of you anymore. We love our kids more than we fear you. Emotions flared in that square, saturating the atmosphere with hope, pain, and determination. With each story shared, more voices joined the cacophony, laughter alongside tears. Memories flowed freely, each one a demonstration of the town's resilience against Rick's toxic influence. Rick's face flushed with anger as he struggled to maintain his composure. You think you can just erase what I've built? You're weak. A calm yet assertive voice cut through the tension. An older gentleman, his features weary but his gaze sharp, stepped forward. Rick, Do you think all this time you've ruled our fears has been a measure of strength? What we see is your weakness. Fear cannot control us anymore. We are rewriting our story. That sentence struck a chord in the crowd. Rewrite our story. They echoed, a chant rising from the depths of their collective spirit. Mike's heart raced as he sensed the tide continuing to turn. They were dismantling Rick's facade piece by piece. Each heartfelt witness brought more clarity to their mission. Rick backed further away, his bravado cracking under the weight of their truth. Nerve and defiance wrestled in his expression. This isn't over. You'll see, he stammered, his voice low and trembling. And when it's over, Rick, Jenna replied calmly, stepping even bolder into the fray, there will be no place left for you in this town. We will thrive without you. The crowd erupted with a series of cheers that felt as if they were propelling Mike and his friends towards some destiny they hadn't imagined just moments before. In this crucible of emotion, they could feel their power, raw and untamed. They were not only fighting for their community, they were fighting for each other, for their children, and for the dreams that bound them together. Rick turned, trying to regain his composure, but faltering in the face of their unity. He had built walls, but they had built bridges to as silence fell again. Heavy and palpable, Mike stepped forward, looking Rick straight in the eyes. You showed us what we don't want to be. Now we show you who we are. Rick stumbled back, his retreating form now a symbol of all that was old and weary. The crowd surged with renewed energy. They found their strength in unity, a promise to keep building and moving forward together. Just as Rick turned to leave, Mike sensed there was something unfinished, a question hanging in the air. What happens when our courage matures, Rick? Will you finally realize the cost of your choices? But Rick didn't look back. He was just a fading silhouette now against the backdrop of a community reborn. And as the echoes of determination faded, Mike wondered what would it take for Rick to face the reality he created? What would the town transform into, standing on the foundation of their courage? The sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting long shadows across the parking lot as Rick faded into the distance. Mike felt an exhilarating wave of relief wash over him alongside a profound sense of bond within the community. They had risen, together, from the ashes of fear into a vibrant tapestry of hope and understanding, fierce and unyielding. Jenna stepped closer, pride shining in her eyes. You did it, Mike, she said softly, as they shared a moment that felt monumental. Their hands clasped, fingers interlaced like the very community that had gathered around them. Aiden and Mia beamed, their youthful innocence now tinged with newfound strength. They had witnessed a transformation, a lesson far beyond simply standing up to Rick. It was about the power of unity. As laughter and chatter resumed, the energy in the parking lot shifted, celebrating not just victory, but renewed relationships. Neighbors who once avoided eye contact now embraced, sharing tears and laughter as they exchanged stories and promises of connection. A young mother broke out a thermos of hot cocoa, inviting everyone to gather around, warming hearts against the chill of the evening. Let us share more stories over cocoa, she said, her voice ringing with genuine warmth. This is just the first step. The crowd roared in agreement, forming small circles around the parking lot under the blanket of the growing evening. Mike felt a swell of gratitude for each and every soul who stood up for what was right, coming together to showcase love over hatred, resilience over fear. Dad, Aiden said, tugging at Mike's sleeve, his eyes wide with excitement. Can we invite everyone over for a barbecue? I want them to see that we can be friends. Mike's heart swelled. Absolutely, buddy. Let us make it happen. As the energy buzzed, Jenna looked at Mike, her gaze full of love and understanding. We've all got to keep this momentum going. It's not just about today, it's about every day from now on. Yes, Mike nodded, feeling the weight lift. We need to ensure this is only the beginning. We come together as a community to protect each other, to uplift those who feel alone. Their words hung in the air, pregnant with possibility. The sense of relationship restored between families those once hesitant to engage was palpable. Ever-growing interactions fueled the hope for lasting change, where division would no longer reign. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the crowd. Can we do a community art project? It was Lucy, the teenager who loved painting. Something big and beautiful to show our unity. Absolutely. Mike cheered, joined by others. Let us make it vibrant. This will celebrate what we stand for. Eager ideas erupted, snowballing into plans as people spoke over one another, blending hopes and dreams for their beloved community. It no longer felt like an echo of past grievances. It thrummed with the anticipation of the future. Mike watched the emergence of smiles and laughter as they broke bread together, sharing plates filled with food and hearts filled with hope. Soon, the air danced with warmth. People spoke of gardens they wanted to plant, block parties they decreate, and how to best ensure their children would never feel unloved or unsafe. And in that moment, as the sun gave its last burst of warmth, Mike felt a rare tranquility. They had taken a stand not just against one man, but against fear itself. They had opened up the conversation, sparking a transformation that so many communities desperately needed. But deep within, Mike still felt those shadows clawing at the edges of his mind. Rick wasn't just a figure in the distance. He represented what lingered in the silence within all of them. A reminder of what could happen if they weren't careful, if they lost their light. That as the celebrations continued and connections flourished, Mike made a mental note to reach out to each person, to genuinely follow through on those promises exchanged today. This community was counting on him, and he was determined to be the man they needed. With every hug, every cheer, and every promise of change, Mike and his community faced the winds of their past together, ready to write a new story, one where hope, strength, and unity would guide their every step into the future. As laughter erupted one last time. As the stars began to twinkle in the sky, Mike locked eyes with Jenna. They knew their path would be filled with challenges ahead, but for now, surrounded by their beloved community, they felt elated, filled with gratitude for the beauty of transformation and the bonds that had formed this day. And with a hopeful heart, Mike took a deep breath, ready to embrace whatever tomorrow would bring. Make a promise to embrace change, to uplift others, and to never forget what they had built together. Before stepping away from the gathering, Mike felt a rush of passion well up inside him. It was time to spread this message far and wide. He knew the world would need to hear their story. And for you, dear friends, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to not miss the next exclusive stories that bring us all together. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and elevate these important conversations. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. Let your voice be heard. And don't wait not even one more second to share this transformative video with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey of healing and hope. True fans know that by doing this, we only grow stronger together. Let us change the world, one heart at a time.